Hi, it's Serena from highlyrecommendedbooks.com, and I'm here today to tell you why I love and why I highly recommend The Circle of Ceridwen by Octavia Randolph. Now, I have to tell you that this is my very first Norse saga, and I am completely hooked. I really loved learning all about what's going on in 9th century, what we would now call England. Back then it was a lot of small kingdoms. In this case, the book takes place in the kingdom of Wessex primarily. But it was the most interesting reading that I have done in a long time. And the reason for that is because Octavia Randolph has really immersed herself in everything 9th century Anglo-Saxon and Norse. She knows as much as anyone about this time period, not just from the historical context, but by the same token, what was going on in culture and religion and household management. When you read the book, you learn things like sheep were the most important animals because not only did they provide food, but they also provided clothing. And women's work was never done and pretty much involved sewing and creating clothing on a daily basis all year long. And life was tough back then, not only just because it's 9th century, but because the 9th century in England at the time was so complicated because the country of, or what we now consider the country of England, was in the midst of being attacked by Norse raiders. The raiders had started coming in about the 8th century, and by the time this book takes place in 871 AD, the raiders have been there for over 100 years, and these are not just innocuous little ships arriving. They are large ships filled with warriors from Scandinavia and Denmark, and they are very savage, very cruel, and are bound and determined to take over all of the countryside of England, or at least the easternmost parts. The reason for that being there just wasn't enough good arable land where they came from. So their population was growing and they needed to expand, and they expanded into what we now consider to be England. And truthfully, if you look at the historical context, what we now think of as English culture and language and religion all came brought to England by these Norse raiders. So, there's always a transference of civilization, and that's what was happening here. But during the process, there is a lot of bloodshed and heartache. So that's the situation that we find ourselves in when the book starts. The heroine of this story, Ceridwen, is a 15-year-old girl. She sets off on a journey to escape being forced into marriage with some older man that she didn't want to marry. And as she's walking along the road, she meets up with a young noblewoman, Alfwin. Alfwin has also a loveless marriage in her future because her father, who is a fairly prominent nobleman, has basically sold her to one of these Norse invaders, Yearling, in the hopes that by giving his daughter's hand in marriage to this Norseman, he will protect his own throne and his lands from being invaded. So the two young women travel to the village of Four Stones, where they live for a while in the company of these Norsemen. Eventually, Ceridwen sets off on her own journey of exploration and romance and adventure, and it is just a really, really intriguing story, because you and I will identify with these characters, and you will want to learn more about them. And that is the beauty of sagas, which is what I learned, because this saga spans 8 novels, and there's certainly many generations of stories to tell. So there is a lot to look forward to here, and you will want to keep reading all of these sagas, so you can find out, do these characters ever find happiness and love and their own place to call home? So I highly recommend The Circle of Ceridwen for anyone who wants to lose themselves in a historical saga. It was fascinating and romantic and full of adventure, and there's fighting and there's cooking, and it's just got everything. And it's historically accurate and just a great read, so I highly recommend it. Now, don't forget to go on my website and sign up for my emails, because if you do that, you will automatically be entered in one of my monthly drawings for a book box. And these book boxes are filled with great gifts. Octavia Randolph herself has sent some fabulous things that you will really want to have. So sign up and keep watching and keep reading. Have a great day.